Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and this is it, guys. This was the moment that everybody had been waiting for ever since the end credit scene of the first Iron Man film where Nick Fury broke into Tony's house and told him about the Avenger Initiative. This was the moment that everybody had been waiting for, and for many years as the Marvel Cinematic Universe began with its characters and bringing in new characters and so on, and two Avengers films that we would get, and eventually we would finally get the moment we've been waiting for in the history of the MCU, and amazing of how this turned out in the history of cinema, I tell ya, and that being, of course, Avengers Infinity War. Yes. So, of course, finally, at long last, I'm, of course, reviewing Avengers Infinity War. And especially since, well, as it was teased in Thor Ragnarok, because basically, like, the end credit scene of Thor Ragnarok, one of the end credit scenes with, a spaceship coming in, that was, like, that leads into Avengers Infinity War. So, the story. The Avengers and their allies must be willing to sacrifice all in an attempt to defeat the powerful Thanos before his blitz of devastation, and ruin puts an end to the universe. So and this is where Thanos finally takes on the Avengers, and he finally gets possession of the gauntlet, of the Infinity Stones, one by one, from the Power Stone, the Tesseract, the Space Stone, I should say, the Time Stone, the Mind Stone, Reality Stone, I should say, and the Soul Stone. So, that's in total of 5 stones, I should say. Yeah, so, if I'm wrong, if I got the numbers wrong. And of course, everybody is in this movie, and it's amazing how this movie turned out, like, with its scenes and how it was moving along, you know what I'm saying? Like, how each scene, like, works, like, what's going on and so on. Of course, we got the main Avengers, of course, Iron Man / Tony Stark, Thor, Bruce Banner / the Incredible Hulk, Steve Rogers / Captain America, Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, Rhodey, War Machine, Doctor Strange, Wanda, of course, T'Challa, Spider-Man, Vision, and also the Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, make their appearance, teaming up with the Avengers. It all started with Thor, because after Thanos, destroyed what was left of the escaped ship that they were in after escaping Asgard from being destroyed, and after, like, Heimdall unfortunately being killed, Heimdall even helped Bruce Banner make his way to Earth to warn Earth, basically, and even say Thanos' children, who, we get the appearance of. So, especially one of my favorite characters of Thanos' children has to be Ebony, if I'm saying his name right. His power, he has the ability to move objects and so on, but similar to Thanos. Although Thanos, he moves metallic objects, but for Ebony, he can move anything. So, of course, Josh Brolin as Thanos, oh my gosh, he is so fantastic as Thanos. Especially the type of villain Thanos is, he's very calm, but he's still evil, you know what I'm saying? Just, you can tell by his personality. Oh yeah, not to mention, also Benicio del Toro reprises the role of the Collector in one scene, where, the Guardians, they make their way to nowhere, and Thanos beat them, because he had already destroyed what's left of nowhere, and who knows what happened to the Collector. Mantis, and of course, Drax, Rocket, and Groot, and Star-Lord, Gamora, and actually the Guardians kind of split up. Rocket and Groot go with Thor to, I forget the name of this place, it's a bit difficult to even pronounce, and it's where, all the Asgardian weapons and the most, powerful weapons are built, And of course, they all go there, while the rest of the Guardians, they go to nowhere. And at one point, Gamora is captured by Thanos. And some of the jokes in Avengers Infinity War are fantastic, like Tony Stark calling Ebony, when he says, "It means get lost, Squidward," or when Star-Lord calls Thanos Grimace. Any McDonald's, fans out there, Grimace. Also, another good joke is where Thor called Rocket a rabbit. It's really funny, even, Rocket saying rabbit. He's a bit confused. Yeah, that's another good joke. Yeah, Ebony Maw, that's his name. And then the rest of the children, like Proxima Midnight, played by Carrie Coon, who would go on to be in Ghostbusters Afterlife as the mother. So, and Stan Lee, of course, making a cameo as the school bus driver, as, Peter tells Ned to cause a distraction, but, that's taken care of, because, when Ned first sees it, sees the spaceship that Ebony is in, and, that, other, child of Thanos, who doesn't really speak, they're in that, circle-like ship, and Ned sees it, "We're all gonna die, there's a spaceship!" And as Peter is getting out of the bus window, Stanley, "What's the matter with you kids? You never seen a spaceship before?" Yeah, Stanley has a point, actually. The bus driver, he kind of has a point. Come on! That's happened before in New York, in the MCU. The first Avengers film? Anybody? Yeah. Even say the return of Steve Rogers, Black Widow, and Sam, almost forgot to mention, the Falcon, they kind of went under hiding. Well, so did Scarlet Witch, or I should say Wanda, and Vision. And this is actually the first time we see Vision, take human form. We see Paul Bettany out of his makeup. That was nice. Yeah, even this time, Steve, in this movie, he grew a beard. And, they help, they recruit and help Wanda and Vision after, two of Thanos' children were going after Vision because, the Mind Stone. And of course, they return to the Avengers campus, or I think it's called campus, Avengers headquarters, whatever. And even say William Ross, and even say William Hurt, who, plays General Ross, he makes a cameo, and even when Steve confronts General Ross, if you interfere, we'll fight you too. So, and, Bruce being reunited with them when he arrives to the Avengers headquarters, and he was the one that did the call to Steve. Tony was about to call Steve, but of course that whole thing got interrupted by Thanos' children arriving at New York, because, Doctor Strange, he has the Time Stone. Let me tell you, even say the interactions between Doctor Strange and Tony Stark are really good. Well, not to mention, Tony, Stephen, and Parker, they went to space. And that's where very later on, after defeating Ebony, because Peter said to Tony, "Have you ever seen this old movie called Aliens?" And yeah, blowing part of the ship, and, it blows out Ebony, he's dead. And they try to steer the ship at one point, but it crashes on Titan. Yeah, that's right, Titan. And, that's where eventually they do meet the Guardians of the Galaxy. Peter, Drax, and Mantis. A little fight between them because, the Guardians think that they're working for Thanos, but no. Especially the dialogue between them. Where's Gamora? Yeah, I'll ask you, or, I'll do you one. Who's Gamora? And then Drax says, "I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?" Of course, that got a big laugh from the audience. Even say Doctor Strange saying, "What master do you serve?" What master do I serve? What am I supposed to say, Jesus? Well, that's the thing. Chris Pratt, he is Christian, so yeah. And also, because that, a little bit earlier, Tony, he knighted Peter as an Avenger, kid, you're an Avenger now. So, and the look that Peter has, he is excited, about this, but he has to stay focused. He has to stay serious. And also, sequences between Gamora and her adoptive father, I should say, Thanos, Especially Gamora knows something that her father doesn't know, and that being where the Soul Stone is. And even say where Thanos had captured Nebula, because Nebula tried to kill Thanos, but of course she failed. And Nebula knows about this too, and Thanos torturing Nebula, getting Gamora to talk. Eventually, she does come out and say that the Soul Stone is on Vormir. And that's where they go to Vormir. And that's where we get the appearance of Red Skull. I kind of didn't expect it, but I was hoping that maybe sometime in the MCU after Captain America: The First Avenger, that Red Skull would appear again at some point in the MCU. We all know that Steve Rogers, Bucky Barnes, and Red Skull, they managed to survive, and they lived up to, say, to the 21st century or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Even with that being in the comics, obviously. So yeah, Red Skull, he's on Vormir, and basically what happened was, in Captain America: First Avenger, the Power Stone, the Space Stone, I should say, it's the Blue Stone, it took him to that planet, and he, became part of that planet or whatever, and anybody who would come to that planet, seeking the Soul Stone. So, yeah. And fortunately, Hugo Weaving does not reprise the role of Red Skull. That's a shame, but I will say, the actor who plays Red Skull in this, who was Red Skull? I forget. Oh, okay, yeah. Ross McQuarrie, if I'm saying that right? Yeah. Red Skull is the Stone Keeper. It says so on IMDb. Yeah, he does a pretty good job as Red Skull. I think the voice, too, when you listen to Hugo Weaving's Red Skull voice and Ross's Red Skull voice, and... it would have been great if Hugo Weaving came back for this, but, well, it was his opinion, so, on whether to come back or not. But anyways, and that's where, Thanos, he does get emotional, and the tears are for Gamora, even when, Gamora just finds it ridiculous that he's crying, and, Red Skull telling her, they are not for him. And Thanos throws Gamora to her death, unfortunately, very sad. And that's where he does get the Soul Stone. And meanwhile, another thing is, we do get a bit of, backstory of Gamora when she was a child, and when she was taken in by Thanos, and when her planet, her people were killed by Thanos and his army. Jeez. And also, back, say, to Steve Rogers and the rest, they make their way to Wakanda, and even that's where Bucky is there as well, and as we saw in the end credit scene of Black Panther. Especially because, I like how, what's-her-face, the bald chick, she's saying, when you said, open the world to Wakanda, this is not, to the world, this is not what I'd imagine, maybe even a Starbucks, what did you have in mind, she mentioned, I forget what the first thing she said was, but then she says, maybe even a Starbucks. And especially how, Bruce asks Rhodey, should we bow? And Rhodey's like, yeah, he's the king. He bows, and, T'Challa's like, we don't do that here. And, Rhodey got Bruce. He was messing with him. Also, I really love the fact that in Avengers Infinity War, we get more of Bruce Banner than the Hulk. That I loved, and it was great. And especially because when Hulk lost to Thanos at the beginning of the film, he was beating him up pretty good, Hulk beating up Thanos, but that's when, Thanos grabbed him, started punching and fighting back, and that's where, Bruce is unable to unleash the Hulk, even when, say, come on, no! What do you mean, no? And, Hulk is refusing to come out and fight, so, because Hulk had never lost before, and he lost to Thanos, so, yeah. And so, even, say, when the Battle of Wakanda begins, Thanos' creature army comes in, and, a couple of his children coming in, there's a little, a little conversation, between, one of the, Proxima, Black Widow, Steve Rogers, and Black Panther. They're talking to her, right before they go to war on Wakanda. And even say, oh gosh, what's his face? Yeah, Baku. Him and his tribe, they come in, ba fa ya hoo. They come in to help as well, joining the fight. And even this is where Black Panther says, "Wakanda forever!" The way that that Chadwick Boseman said it, just, yeah, that famous line. And also, jumping back to, say, Thor, Rocket, and Groot, because they make their way to this place where these weapons are built, and we get the appearance of Peter Dinklage as, oh no, where is he? Trying to find this. Peter Dinklage. Where are you, Peter Dinklage? Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Kenneth Branagh had a cameo voice. He was the Asgardian distress call. He was the first voice heard in the film. Like, we are under assault. I repeat, we are under assault. That was him. Okay, here he is, Peter Dinklage. He is Eitri. Yeah, I think I got that right. Eitri, this giant dwarf, and hey, good for Peter Dinklage playing a giant, like a giant dwarf and such. Good for him. And not to mention, he had done a Marvel film before. Remember, we should remember that he was in X-Men Days Future Past, so as basically the bad guy. So in the 1970s, using mutants and whatever for experiments. Basically, what happened was what happened to that place, and with Eitri, Thanos got there and forced him to build him a gauntlet to wield the stones. And, if Eitri had not done that, then Thanos would kill his people. But, he did build it, but Thanos lied and he still killed them, including taking Eitri's arms, his hands, I should say. Now he's got, metallic, hands or something. And that's where, they start to build the Stormbreaker, Thanos' new hammer. It's basically like an axe. And, trying to turn it back on and so on, like Rocket and Thor trying to turn it on. And with, blasts of flames and so on, eventually that does work. And Thor being injured from holding that, in place. And, Groot, because most of the time Groot was playing on his game, 80s game, whatever. And also, Groot saying, we don't know what Groot said, but that gives you an idea. He said something dirty, rude to Peter when Peter was telling Groot to put that thing away as they were making their way to where the Asgardian ship was destroyed. Groot, put that thing away. I don't want to tell you again. Groot. I am Groot. Whoa, language. You got some acorns on you, kid. That is too funny. Anyway, so back to what I was saying about, the axe, Thor's new weapon being almost, made and finished, and Eitri, is telling Groot, Tree, help me find the handle, and that's where Groot, he helps out finally, and using, part of his body, because he's a tree, to make the handle. And that was pretty cool, especially when he lifts it up and he slices his arm, and that becomes the handle for, the axe and so on. And then, it starts to electrocute, and, Thor waking up and about to come to his hand. And that's when, during the Battle of Wakanda, and I don't think I did mention this yet, no. Bruce, of course, joining in the battle, but this time, he's in a Hulkbuster suit. So, where did they get that Hulkbuster suit? Was it in Wakanda, or... My guess is probably it must have been back at the Avengers headquarters, and they brought it along with them just in case. So, that's my guess. Yeah, and of course, Bucky and Steve reuniting, of course, he's got, his, mechanical arm back, I can't tell if that's a new arm. It probably is a new arm for Bucky. And right as it seems as though that they are kind of losing, the Avengers and the Wakanda people, well, have no fear, Thor comes in, and an epic moment especially, and with the music that's playing, the Avengers music, and, when Bucky says, you got... No, not Bucky. Bruce, I meant. You guys are so screwed now. Well, no kidding, because Thor being so powerful, and bring me Thanos. And I'd like to point this out. My dad wished that that the song that played in Thor Ragnarok, he thought that maybe that would fit. But this is Avengers Infinity War. This is an Avengers movie. No, we're like the Avengers theme works, and I think my dad couldn't deny that either. Like I think both me and my mom were talking about that to him. Just that this is an Avengers movie, so you get the point. Even say like a bit of interaction like between like say Rocket and Bucky, like how much for the arm, not for sale. Okay, how much for the how much for the gun, not for sale. Okay, how much for the arm? And like, oh, get that arm. Oh, Rocket. And then of course Thor and Steve, I've noticed you copied my beard. And by the way, this is one of my friends, the tree. I am Groot. I am Steve Rogers. That's funny. Like, it's like, well, Groot probably is saying I am Groot. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? But also on Titan, like Thanos like coming in and him interacting with Doctor Strange a little bit about say what Titan was like, and he wanted to save his planet, but everybody on Titan called him a madman. And then, as Gamora explained earlier, and as Thanos explains, that with the stones, he'd do it with the snap of his fingers, and they all cease to exist, And that's when all the others, they come in and attack Thanos, and Thanos, of course, fighting back as well. It's really cool stuff, and not to mention, like, with Peter, like, he puts, like, something on Thanos, and right as, like, Doctor Strange opens, like, a portal and such, like, even like this was in the trailer, and obviously they blurred this, or they edited this out, but in the movie itself, like, as, it's like, boom, like, he does the middle finger, so... And even say, like, Doctor Strange using, like, open portals, like, for, like say, Spider-Man kicking Thanos, magic with a kick, and Thanos grabs and, like, insect. And, of course, eventually, it seems as though they managed to hold Thanos in place, and by taking the gauntlet out of his hand. And Peter telling Thanos, where's Gamora? Nebula showing up, and Nebula telling what happened to Gamora. Like, she doesn't really say, but Peter starts to realize, and that's when he just loses it and smacks Thanos on the face. Not to mention, because, okay, here's another thing. Like, earlier, Doctor Strange was, like, observing how many, like, different, like ways and, like, different times that they defeated Thanos, and... basically, and, Tony asks, how many did we win? How many fights did we win, defeating Thanos? And Doctor Strange says, 1. So, they have to figure out how in order for that to happen, they just, have to try and figure this out. We'll even say with Peter, kind of messing up the plan, but... Obviously, and as we all know, that's not, like, we all know how the defeat of Thanos is, in the next Avengers film, so, until we get to that. More going on Wakanda, and Vision being protected. More fights going on, going back and forth on Titan and Wakanda, especially, like, an epic fight between Doctor Strange and Thanos, like, Doctor Strange, like, making clones of himself, whatever, fooling Thanos, and then, like, Thanos fighting against Tony Stark, and then, like, Thanos, like, Tony was going to, like, stab Thanos, but then he, like, broke it off and then stabbed Tony back, And even Thanos knew Tony's name, so, anyways, and then, of course, Thanos making his way to Wakanda, like, He's got 1 stone left to get, 1 to go, as he says. And then one of the last words that Doctor Strange says before we come back to Wakanda, we're at the end game now. And that being the title for the next Avengers film. Not to mention, the word endgame was spoken, was said in Age of Ultron. So, yeah. Early tease for... a title for an Avengers film, I should say. And so Thanos finally arriving to Wakanda. Even before he arrived to Wakanda, like a couple of Thanos' children being killed, like a girl fight between Proxima, Oki and Black Widow and Wanda, and Bruce defeating the big giant, child of Thanos, yeah. And even say when Bruce is just telling Hulk to, come on and fight, and, no! And it's funny what Bruce says, oh, screw you, you big green asshole, I'll do it myself. And yeah, he does do it himself, by using one of the Hulkbuster arms to launch him into the sky, yeah. And, he's like, Hulk, we need to talk about this, we need to go over some things, whatever he says. And again, so Thanos finally arriving, even when, say, Vision, helped out as well. He saved Steve at one point. And, like, each of the Avengers fighting Thanos, but of course, they lose to Thanos, even when Steve is holding on to the gauntlet. And I think even Thanos is a little bit surprised, well, because of, Steve Rogers' human strength, super strength. And of course, Thanos with a big punch right in the face. Oh, that's gotta hurt. And then, of course, Vision tells Wanda to kill him, and she does. Even when Vision tells Wanda that, I love you, and Vision is destroyed, and Thanos, well, he's got the Time Stone, he reverses time, and Vision is alive, and that's when, he basically yanks the Mind Stone out of Vision's head, and then he's got all 6 stones. That's right, 6 stones. And Thor coming in with the Stormbreaker, and, it went into his, chest, but that's when Thanos is like, you should have gone for the head. No! And right as he says no, and, a moment between Thanos and little Gamora, like Thanos has a vision, obviously, and, the gauntlet is a bit burned out, especially after using the stones, and Thor's like, what did you do? Thanos disappears, and that's when you wonder what's about to happen. Each of the characters turn to dust. Not all of them. From Bucky, some on Wakanda, Black Panther, Wanda, Groot, Sam, aka Falcon, and on Titan, we see Mantis, Drax being, turning to dust, and, Peter, he turns to dust too, and then Doctor Strange, he's like, Tony, there was no other way. And then just for a few seconds, he turns to dust too, and a very emotional moment where Peter dies as well. Spider-Man, no. And especially very emotional where Peter's like, I don't want to go, and then, he says, I'm sorry. And did I forget to mention, this is where we do see Peter Parker in the Spider-Man iron armor, that was teased in Spider-Man Homecoming, and we finally get to see it full time in Avengers Infinity War, so that's great. And then after that, only Tony and Nebula, they're the only 2 on Titan, and Nebula's like, he did it. And yep, Thanos did what he accomplished, for sure. And a moment between those who are still alive, that being Steve, Natasha, Bruce, Thor, Rhodey, and Rocket. And, Rhodey's like, what is this? What the hell's happened? As Rhodey says. And, with the lifeless body of Vision being there, and, Steve's like, oh god. And they lost to Thanos. And one last shot of Thanos on the planet that he's on, where he would retire, as he said, after what he accomplished. So, yeah, after, by snapping his fingers. Oh, man, and what a way to end that movie, and how the credits are. It's just simple credits, black and white credits. Jeez. And a bit of emotional music, it's like in memory of those who died in the movie, And when the Avengers Infinity War logo shows, it turns to dust too. And one last scene, at the very end of the credits, we get an appearance, of course, of of Nick Fury and Maria Hill. And basically, yeah, after the snap of Thanos' fingers, like, we see a lot of it happening, like some people turning to dust, a helicopter crashing into a building. Maria Hill turns to dust, and so does Nick Fury, right as he was about to pull out a device, and as he's turning to dust, oh no, that was pretty funny. And it seems as though he managed to turn the button, like, to activate it, like, press the button to give out a distress call, and that being to Captain Marvel. So this is where Captain Marvel is teased, and how we would get the appearance of her in Avengers Endgame, but before Avengers Endgame, we would get her movie first. So, yeah. What a way to end that film, definitely. But man, and especially, right before the movie ends, it says, Thanos will return. Boy, yeah. Well, it's obvious Thanos will return, so, yeah. What? Avengers Infinity War. What a heck of a movie this is, definitely. I remember when walking out of the theater after seeing it for the first time, I literally said, wow. Just, it's true, because what a movie this was. And what about you guys? What did you think of Avengers Infinity War? Like, the first time you saw it. And you know what? You know, I remember just making a couple of videos about seeing Avengers Infinity War and so on, but oh well. What did you guys think of Avengers Infinity War when you saw it? What you thought of my review? Leave comments and give this review a like as always. And definitely, I give this a 10 out of 10 without a doubt. What a masterpiece this is, definitely. And I look forward to when I eventually review Avengers Endgame, but that's going to be down the road, so, you know. But anyways, so again, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Avengers Infinity War. More reviews coming your way. They're gonna be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review. And until my review of Avengers Endgame, take care, peace out, and Avengers, assemble.